It's coons. What have y'all done for us lately? And if there's no answer, the only thing we owe them.
Brother Roland, I think you're fine.
Hey, good evening. Welcome you guys to Let's Talk Too. And tonight we'll be having discussion in reference to foundational Black Americans, the freedmen, the Negro American, and understanding what is going on present. We've heard these terms. I myself is here. Sister Kim is here. Brother Roland is here. And we're going to have a discussion tonight in reference to what is going on. A lot of people see a lot of online discourse or clarity, what we would say, and people putting their foot down on what is delineation and delineating themselves from the diaspora. Like I say, is the diaspora is a very interesting thing when you start discussing it, because the reality is that everybody in the diaspora can delineate except the Black American, the Negro American, the Freedman American. For some reason, when their delineation is being brought up, it's always, you guys don't have a culture. You guys don't have this. You guys don't have that. When the reality of the matter, when we have these discussions, is the reality is that if you're in America, if you're in Turtle Island, you're on this part of the continent, that you would not be here if it wasn't for the Black American, the foundational Black American, the Native American, the freedman, the Negro.
Amen.
You would not be here. You would not even be able to get into the country presently if you were not here off the sweat, blood, equity off their backs. And for some people, the conversation will be difficult. For some, it's very clear as day what's going on and why it's necessary, and why it has always been kind of going on, but we see what we would call a renaissance in, hold up, this group of people and their descendants are tired of carrying the water for everybody else. Everybody else being able to climb the social economical ladder in this country, and then turn their backs on the very same people, the very same descendants that they got in the country on. Some have been outright disrespectful. Some have been outright a detriment to our restorative and protective claims, to the point where even when they climb that ladder, they have been outright blatant and outright closing the door. We even see that when you talk about the
Reparative.
congressional. Wait a second, Kim.
I'm
When you
sorry.
even talk about the Congressional Black Caucus
Mhm.
and what they've done and how detrimental they have done for, as I would like to say, because Roland's here, they've been so detrimental for the Negro, it is even funny. It is outright treasonous, as we would say. So we're going to have this
Amen.
discussion. Sister Kim is here, Roland's here. So I'd like to introduce you guys and welcome you guys to the show. And Roland, we've done a lot of stuff together prior. Sister Kim, we were on a panel together before, but we never really had an opportunity to do something like this together. So I welcome both of you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Hi,
much.
my Sister Kim. You ladies first.
Oh no, I just wanted to say thank you for having me. I do appreciate it. And go ahead, Brother Roland.
I want to say thank you, Brother Q. Thank you for reaching out to us. I'm glad that we're here. Before and foremost, we have the book Delineationology, the Science of Delineation for the Negro American. Um, we're going to go in and talk about some of the exploitation of Negro and where people have benefited off of it. Doesn't matter if you're a Native American, doesn't matter if you're a white person, doesn't matter if you're immigrant. A lot of people, based off of, I would say, the Dred Scott effect. I don't have to respect the rights that a black man has. I don't have to respect the Negro. I can take from him, I can steal from him, I could take his intellectual property and say that I built this. No different from the railroads, no different from the things that we see today. So what we're going to talk about as well is the exploitation, but what is a Negro and stuff of that nature as well. So I'm very, very excited to be here. Sister Kim is here as well. She's a very, very staunch supporter of Negro on the birth certificate. I enjoy working with her. We have done a lot of great work in regards to policies that can shape and protect our people, protect our bloodline and our lineage, because it's our God given right. And this is a nation that we built, not by choice, but by force. So I really do appreciate this
I'm
conversation.
glad. I'm glad that you actually started off exactly where I want to start this discussion. Have a few questions for you, if you don't mind. And
Yep.
I know you, Mr. Kim, will give us an explanation. Even if I identify myself with that, with um, my ancestors being here, and I would like to say, my ancestors have some equity into
They
this thing
do.
as well. Blood, sweat, and tears. Yeah, my both sides of my family actually is from Georgia, originally from Georgia, right? But anyway, when you say Negro in your mission statement, are you defining an ethnic group, political class, or both?
I'm first defining an ethnic group and a heritage of a group of people. One of the things that we use as a hallmark, we point and reference one, the transatlantic slave trade, but we also talk about Negro land, the area at which they got Negroes from. People would like to make comments or say perspectives and or views and say that Negro is something that Spanish people had branded on the black Africans when they brought them over the transatlantic slave trade, when they actually knew the group of people in which they were plucking them out of Africa into bringing them to the transatlantic slave trade to make them servitude for the rest of their natural lives. It was the Negroes from Negro land in which they were picking from. And what I mean by picking from, I mean engaging in human trafficking. I mean exploitation of a group of people with the sole purpose of extracting labor out of them to generate a wealth for a superpower, which we call America today. So when we have this type of framework and understand why the transatlantic slave trade is important, what type of people were they bringing over, and the reasons why. That's why it's very important to stick with Negro and understand and reverence and protect Negro, because that's our bloodline. That's our heritage. That's who we are as a people.
Mr. Kim, do you have anything to add?
I agree with Brother Roland, and let me just introduce myself formally. Now, am a person who was born around the Jim Crow time period, and the my fathers and family came off a plantation that was called Nafa. It was called the Nafa plantation, and they changed it to Dixon something of a other here in Delaware. And so now from there, just actually seeing a lot of suffering as a Negro woman and my family being Negroes and actually known to come off the plantation. So my eyes have witnessed the mental suffrage of slavery and how it has trickled down to my descendant, which is basically foundational Black Americans, and now putting those two together as an advocate, someone who sits as a co-chair to attorneys, someone who has a bachelor's in psychology, someone who has the ability to reconstruct family structures that are falling apart, someone who has the ability to be married for 30 years and some change, and someone has the ability to actually construct the NBNU, which is the Negro Black Nation United. It's a official government, and we are going to start putting our mission statement out. We just put together an invoice to begin to solidify the harm that was actually done to our people, from Negroes to foundational Black American, that qualifies for that suffering, and they have documentation to prove it. So I have become a part of a great movement. I really appreciate this time period. I appreciate working with Roland Dunham, who has a master's in forensic. He has a master's in investigation. He has built a delineationology institute, which, you know, if you are real, that person who is entitled to something, we have constructed a way that we could make sure that you as a victim is actually getting paid or will receive your just dues. And so I just wanted to take the time out and just put that out there before, you know, I say anything that is related to Brother Roland, basically reconstructing our historical and our ancestral landmarks that makes us different from everybody else.
Well,
Oh, I do
I
want to chime
appreciate
in
you
on
giving
one
that
thing.
clarity. Go ahead, Ron.
I do want to chime in on one thing. I have a master's in investigation. I do have a certificate in elderly and children investigations with vulnerable populations. So when it comes to historical reconstruction, you're going to need somebody that's going to investigate, ask questions, and know how to do it in a tactful manner with our elders to get the knowledge that extract that knowledge out from them and be able to make sense of it and be able to apply it to a reconstruction type of format to restructure our lineage.
And then,
So those are my expertise and my things that are. I don't have the forensic background, but I'm more into the investigative side.
Great. So you guys, I have some like I said, some questions, and it'll give it hopefully that, you know, those that may watch the program, those that may get an understanding of what we're trying to do and what we're trying to explain, will give some people more clarity, because unfortunately a lot of things, when you see things on the internet, things come off as very divisive. And a lot of people, when they see division and stuff that goes on and see argument, some people cling to it. But there's a certain group of people that be like, "Oh, I don't got no time for all that stuff. I don't need to know all that stuff. I'm a Black person living in America. I definitely don't need to be putting myself in no situation that's going to add more drama to what I got to deal with every day in
Mhm.
this land." And they'd be like, "I'm just not going to deal with it. It's always some new stuff, always some new phrases, always some new titles, always some new clarity." So I have some questions so we could get into this discussion and really um you guys can explain, and like you said, have the historical references that, you know, will back up everything that's being said by those that are really saying it and providing clarity. So I want to ask my next question directly to Kim, right? Um, what makes lineage essential to your framework rather than race alone?
that's a pretty good question, because the lineage is tied to Emancipation Proclamation. So, in order for me, someone who works in the law industry, for me to construct an invoice in order for my heirs, which will be you all, is my heirs, I have to remove race and put it based on a debt that is owed. And based on the debt that is owed to me, it goes to my children. So now I've just tied a chain, and the chain is now being connected from me as the Negro. Then that will go with your history, and the ancestral part of what belongs to me goes down to my heirs. So now I put those together. You now are addressing lineage.
Okay. Okay. So Roland, I remember when you first started talking about you were going to write this book and doing some research on delineation. Um, Expound on why delineation has, like, we could say it's been divisive, but really it's like, hold up. And now it's really catching on within the real, I would say, last 7, 8 years. Like I said earlier when we were behind the scenes talking, our elders have always said it. Our elders have always said certain language where it was delineation, but more of, we know who we are, um, but our focus is just surviving right now. Our focus is just getting through. So explain your genesis of your writing your book, doing your research, and why delineation is so important right now, and what we're seeing with we could call it a movement, but really it's about the lineage. Why
Oh,
delineation is so tied up with uh, lineage.
yeah, like I first of all, it's not divisive, it's self-preservation. Like we got to get that right out the way. We have a right, and it's our God-given right to preserve and protect our heritage and our lineage. That's something that's ordained by God, that's ordained by laws and things that are around us to make us who we are. And for anybody to say that they're divisive, they're just mad because they can't exploit us. They can't steal and take from us. They can't unalive us or murder us at a whim. That's the reason why they're saying it's divisive. So I definitely want to just hit that right there on the head and let people know that it's not divisive. We have a right to practice self preservation, no different from any other group here on this planet called Earth. All right. So, what started off with delineationology was an argument in grad school. We were talking about cultural appropriation. And I talked about it from the guise of cultural appropriation could be a form of a fraud behavior. This was during my class where we were learning about the three elements of a fraud, which they consider the fraud triangle. If you see throughout my book, I have three elements that set up melanin material misrepresentation, melanin minstrel face, the various different crimes that people do underneath the guise of black skin. They're out here impersonating a group, an ethnic group, in order to get unearned benefits. You cannot impersonate a Native American person to get unearned benefits because you see what happened to Elizabeth Warren. They called her Pocahontas. We don't have people that's out here really batting for us and saying, hey, why are you impersonating this black person? Why are you getting that MLK scholarship? Why are you involved in the Black Student Union? See, these are the things that we should have been clamping down on as a people, but we have been so open armed to other groups of people and allowed them to come under the guise of being a Black American based off of skin color, not by ethnicity. So those are some of the reasons why delineationology had to be written, had to be discussed about. But it comes down to even further. How are we going to enforce these policies and these laws? How can we start exercising it and actually start putting the necessary pressure on politicians in regards to criminal activity, criminal underprising? Because I'm talking about criminal behavior. You have something to say, Brother
So,
Q?
so let me ask you, right?
Mhm.
So black as a category is too broad of for policy purposes.
Yes, and it's easy to be exploited. And it has been, I would say, around like the 1965, even though there was immigrants prior but they identified as other, and they had to identify and write their name, or not their name, write their ethnicity or who they were. Like they had to self-identify in that manner. This day and age, because of self-identification, they can check off as black. There's nobody that's not going behind and say that they're not black. No different from Madami in New York, or that mayor in New York, saying that he's an African American, getting African American benefits. That mayor, and then now nobody's not recalling his degree for saying that this man is lying, that this man stole a spot from a black American person. See, it's very ironic how the Chinese people from the AAPI community were saying that black American people were stealing their spots and stealing their spaces underneath the guise of minority, and the reason why they dismantle affirmative action for colleges and end up hurting them in the long run. But it's crazy how they could say something like that.
So you guys in the chat, what Roland just did is Roland explained. You're hearing a lot about from talking heads in reference to the Civil Rights Act being repealed. And a lot of people feel like that don't know the civil rights was appealed because this president is racist, or the civil rights was appealed because SCOTUS is racist. SCOTUS, I mean the Supreme Court, is racist, or the Supreme Court is Republican. One thing that we have to understand when you talk about law is that SCOTUS cannot take a case. The Supreme Court just does not decide stuff out of thin air. What happened, there were a group of Asian Americans that decided to take a case, and their case went to the Supreme Court. And it challenged the legality of the Civil Rights Act. And their decision, their majority decision, said that it was too broad. This is very important for us to understand, and I'm not a legal expert. I'm just somebody that went to paralegal school as a secondary school, but I know enough about civics where I can explain it to layman's terms. The civil rights language was too broad.
Mm-hmm.
And what the Supreme Court's decision did is it shot down some of these quote unquote protections that in the language from the original Civil Rights Act was too broad. Because, like Roland explained, they felt as though, the Asian Americans felt as though they got this case to the Supreme Court, that they should have had protections for them under the guise of the Civil Rights Act. So when you hear these talking heads saying, oh, it was pulled back, oh, it's affecting black people, the language should have been written to be specific, and it was never written to be specific. It was too broad of language. Go ahead, Ron.
And yeah, and immigrants have their own set of laws. I think it's immigrant rights and different things of that nature that they could subscribe to, so they don't need to graft themselves onto the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, which they have been doing to get unearned benefits underneath the guise of minority. And I know that Sister Kim can go a little bit further into that, more than I would into that, because that is her expertise. I'm more or less looking at the criminal behavior, the crimes that's being committed, the fraudulent behavior, the cultural impersonation, the exploitation of our people. And the thing is that I wanted to make delineation a way to actually punish other groups of people, to enforce. You could talk delineation, but if you can enforce it, that makes it stronger. That makes it concrete. And then you codify it in law. Then you have people go out and enforce those laws. That's what I'm building the bridge to make sure that when we see somebody out here impersonating a black American person, like a Barack Obama, who's saying that we don't need reparations, we can call them out and say, hey, you can't talk on that. You're not one of us. AKA Kendrick Lamar. You're not like us.
Let me ask you. You brought up President Obama's name. and this is for Kim. Before you get started on it, Roland, I'm gonna ask this to Kim. When President Obama was in office, a lot of things happened where people may not understand like Roland said, the erasure of certain words. During his presidency, this word Negro became African American. Not saying that the word African American came from him, but you started seeing the language of Negro on like United Negro College Fund, stuff like that. You started seeing the erasure of the word Negro. Um, for everybody in the chat that may be older than me, we remember that we were once identified as the Negro. Before anybody said African American, they would say Freedmen's or Negro. Or, they came up with the social construct of black. You know what I mean? So, Kim, explain why that erasure of the word Negro is so detrimental.
Yes, I'm currently putting together a lawsuit against the United States of Office of Budget Administration that has recently continued to migrate the multicultural individuals into the foundational Black Americans who are tied to me, which is I am a Negro. And what I have established being a Negro goes down to the foundational Black Americans. And because the removal of my existence has caused, I believe I've multiplied, I think it's $1.4 trillion of deprivation to my current existence heirs, which will be you all. And reason why it's a detriment is because it leaves our people out of the possibility of being self-sufficient. It leaves us out of the possibility of having any kind of progressive growth. It leaves us out of the possibility to be independent. Anything that we have, we're now removed. So it's like me personally, I don't exist. And then to tell the whole world that I'm just a term when I'm walking and talking and breathing, and I've had children that has, may not have been classified or written on vital records as a Negro. My husband is a Negro, but they began to classify my children because they didn't come through the time of slavery. They classify my children as Black or yeah, it was Black. It was Black. It wasn't even African American. It was just Black. And so now they're stealing whatever I want to give to you all, such as the Negro Fund, such as the Negro Grant, as far as there's a lot of, it's also something that's called, it's an ongoing sovereignty wealth that has been passed down to Negroes through the emancipation that you all are no longer tied to because you have no ethnicity. You're no longer tied to Negroes, so you have nothing coming. So that's the detriment of just removing Negroes, remove anything that you're entitled to, the landmark, the reconstruction, the advocacy, the protection, the ongoing wealth, our economy, rebuilding, reconstruction. I can go on and on and on, which I'm currently doing that. And you guys stay tuned to my current lawsuit. Hopefully I'll win it and be able to begin to provide some victimization notices where those who are a part of the lineage can receive some kind of payment from what we recover in our organization. But that's all I have to say. I hope, did I answer
No,
that?
no, 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 no. You're fine. Because I want to have some. I understand the legal jargon that you're using,
Mm-hmm,
and understand why it's so important.
mm-hmm,
Because you hear a lot of people when people talk about, and this conversation is really more of the protection claim that
mm-hmm,
we should have. But
mm-hmm.
when you hear about reparative justice, when you start talking about reparations, oh my goodness, it's a bunch of people that, oh, I shouldn't have to pay for these people, or why should I be part of this? Why should
Everybody become
why shouldn't I be a part
economists.
of this? So when you talk about exactly, everybody becomes economists, and then you hear the people that say black isn't a legality.
Mm.
This is why I asked you the question about Negro. This is why when you look at those papers, those treaties, you will literally see Freedmen, you will literally see Negro in the paperwork. Um, and understanding that erasure that Roland had brought up and understanding what really happened during the Obama administration, where the word Negro basically really got phased out. And I'm not blaming President Obama because President Obama was doing exactly what he was sent to do. He was standing on his 10 on who he was. He's not a black American. So people may not understand the term or why we would say the terms, but understanding that erasure, Kim, why is it important to always never allow that erasure to happen? Is it just from a legality standpoint or just us knowing who we are, Kim?
Well, I would say the reason why it's important is to remove a legacy that makes you you. I'm proud to know that my father family came from the Norfolk plantation. That's just the origin of Norfolk before I got married. So I'm glad to know where I come from. And then I'm also proud to have witnessed the success of the struggles and the fight and they endured to the end to get me where I have an education to now pick up the mantle and begin to formulate a sovereign government that is an advocate between what the foundational Black Americans are entitled to protection that we fought for already, that other people are commandeering. You all are entitled to that. And though your education may be watered down, mine may vary. So putting the ability together to protect the current generation, which is my children, I consider you all my children, and then to make sure that you all get which is our legacies of land. It's our legacy of the labor, the free work that we did, that it's time for them to pay up. You all are entitled to that. But they're not going to pay you as black because black people didn't build anything. It was your ancestors, which were Negroes, that put the work in or died or that had the harm. But because you all stand so independently without us, that's the reason why the law has so many loopholes to make sure that you all don't cross over. But I'm here to connect the loophole of who I am in existence, that anything moving under Negro, if it is not the truth and if it doesn't really line up, then you're going to have a problem with the NBNU, and you're going to have a problem with the misappropriation of using Negroes that does not apply to your bloodline or does not apply to your vital record or your certificate or your birth certificate, or it distorts anything of my legacy. Or it's like an insurance policy that I had benefit. You know how you have beneficiaries that you're trying to say, if I die, it's supposed to go to my son, my daughter, right? That's
Mhm.
what, that's the Negroes' legacy. They have put so much uh historical and hidden money and wealth into United States of America, where you all are the benefits of that. But because we're scrambling about, we're unsure, we're kind of hard-headed, and we won't give leadway to the bigger conversation of those who are judges, which I'm pulling together, attorneys, which I'm calling together, the veterans. All of them are being called to the table of the NBNU and the Negro Black Knight Heritage Club to make sure that we begin to put together an invoice. No more, we don't need no more reparation. We're clear in the legal terms that will allow us to begin to formulate a payout and create a government that separate us from everybody else and identify us the protection that we are guaranteed to have from the day that we were emancipated. And I'll land with that.
So, Roland,
Can I chime in on one part about what she said?
yeah, go ahead.
About, because she mentioned she mentioned the government, which is a good thing. When we talk about the delineation movement, one of the things that get talked about through these tethers that keep saying that we're being divisive and all this other stuff, right?
What is it? What is a tether?
Tether is for those is people who are cosplaying Black American folks, misappropriating Black American folks or Blackness with the intentions of defrauding the public, defrauding for resources, like the Somalians out in Minnesota would be
So
tethers.
let me ask you, and I know this is a question that I kind of know the answer. So I literally have to do something to be a tether. I'm not just a tethered
Yeah,
from
it's
waking
an
up.
adjective.
Okay.
We're describing a criminal action or behavior that has negative effects that impact us as a people. When a person is lying on their about their education, saying that they have the necessary college degrees, and now they're working in Black American communities, they're abusing our elders or harming our loved ones. That's a tether. Right. So I just want to talk about it could also mean from a criminal sense, and that people can actually, we want to outlaw and criminalize this behavior as well. One of the things that I do want to get back to that talk about, one of the things that the tethers like to say online, or people who are adversarial to our plight, they'll say, what's the end goal of delineation? Let's talk about that, right? Delineate into a nation. That's
Nice.
why you need a government.
Yes.
That's the should be the end goal of delineation. Us being a nation within a nation of a body of land that we control from top to bottom. That's what we're talking about here. Separating ourselves from this government. Yeah, we could be like the Native Americans, but we'll have our own Negro town over there, our own Negro nation over there.
Currency. Don't forget currency.
Currency, trading. These are the things that
I,
has been historically blocked out from Negro Black American people. That's one of the things I talk about from a global sense, the global market. We can't even capitalize off of the art and the music that we create. That's why you got K-pop out there that I wrote about. That's a problem. Them exploiting Black writers and artists and whatnot. This is why you have them, these Africans cosplaying Black American people, because they look at us as exploitative. But if we were to do that in their nations, they will actually unalive us. They will actually kill our people. And some of our people even go there to help, and they unalive them because of the land. But they don't do that to the Asian people. They don't do that to the Russians. They don't do that to the Europeans that exploit them. This is why delineation is very, very important.
Let me ask you a question. When you think about chattel slavery, when you think about Jim Crow, when you think about redlining, when you think about mass incarceration, and you tie all this stuff in together with this group of people who we're descendants of, and you see why distinguishing yourself from lineage is so important. Would you say, from the information that you have, Roland and Sister Kim, would you say that it has basically been a genocide going on?
I want us to upgrade those charges. It's eradication of Negroes. It's eradication of Black people. When you lock up Black people unjustly, and over 50-something% of us is being exonerated, that shows that they're exploiting labor from our Black people behind those walls. Some of those brothers and sisters are not making it back home. They're distorting justice. Now, if they're falsifying police logs to arrest these Black folks, these Negro folks, who are the real criminals that are out there that are allowed to run free in our public, in our society? So those are the things that I think about from a criminal justice mindset, an investigation mindset. And there's over 300,000 black men, women, and children that has been abducted. There hasn't been an emergency ringing an alarm saying, "Hey, we don't know what type of people we got here." Our people are getting organ harvest, sex trafficked. No different from the days of slavery. The only thing is that we're a little bit freer and we don't have whips and slave masters like that on our backs. They just take a different form.
Mr. Kim,
So
what's your thought on my question about the genocide?
Yeah, I think the new language you're using is genocide, but I'll go back to
Ethnic cleansing?
I'll go back to the language that was used in my time period, or the time period that I was a student of my existence and me being here. They classified, they means the slave traders. They classified my land in 1747 as Negro land, and then they established their egregious mindset as to the disdainment of what they did to take a people, and then with cruelty and with the barbaric behavior punish those very people that they stole, wrote books about annihilation. So my time period, we were already aware that it was Negroes to America then to being annihilated. So the annihilation came in many forms. And one of the forms were, as Brother Roland said, is to begin to commit genocide. And then what you said was I think it was what did you just say, Brother Q? What was the word you?
Ethnic cleansing.
Yeah,
ethnic
and
cleansing.
we called that, in my time, it was called breeding. They would take two pure Negroes together, and then they would put an Indian together with the Negro, and it was called mulattoes. So we started to, that's why I accept foundational Black Americans, because I know breeding was a part of the mindset of, the Caucasian people to do ethnic cleansing. One way with just to mix up a whole bunch of, different bloods. And then the other way was to actually unalive a lot of us. And then the other way was to mentally and permanently drug or enslave us, where the opportunity for us to rise like the phoenix that we are out of the ashes, that they will begin to annihilate, remove, and permanently destroy. So that's what I learned from my time period.
Okay, in discussing some of the parameters for having this discussion with you guys, right? I kind of understood that, you know, we're speaking about more of a cultural recognition. Definitely when you're seeing people like, really being proud of like, yo, hold up, you ain't gonna be coming here saying that you guys started rap, understanding how the Native Americans, Native Black Americans were here first, and you're here on our back, like we sticking a fork in the sand. So how do we address? And I have to keep hitting this point, and Ron, this is for you, really, and focusing on that legal and economic recognition.
Yeah. So one of the things is we in my book Delineationology, we're what I'm trying to do is combat against these $5 Negroes. And what I mean by $5 Negroes, I mean you got the AAPI community. You have this Indian guy that was running around cosplaying like a black person. Let me show you some cosplay. How to be black. These are the books that are out in circulation where these tethers is out here saying how to be black. Given you just had another tether that was out there giving the pass to the N word during Black History Month. Right? I can't think of the guy's name, but you got this. But I know he's from Jamaica or somewhere like that. or Grenada or something like that. So you have these individuals who are allowing racial slurs and during our month, when they should be learning about who we are as a people, they're okaying the dominant society and the culture because of the skin color. That's one of the things. What I'm talking about is actually creating a force and the mechanism and the mind behind enforcing these type of laws. What type of a police force or investigation agency will actually go out and investigate these type of crimes to make it punishable? See, I'm surprised the Republicans are not knocking on our door because they love making up new laws to punish people. I'm talking about
that. Speaking of that, right? Like I said, you have a bunch of people that really, in my opinion, watching, and I'm one of them people that love decisions by SCOTUS, the affirming opinion and the dissenting opinion. And when you start, if you're into legal stuff and you like that stuff, you read the affirming opinion, and if it's for something that you like, you'll like it. But when you read the dissenting opinion, the dissenting opinion sometimes become precedent in law. And it's very interesting when you read why a justice has an opinion on dissent, because some don't write a dissenting opinion, but the ones that do, you will get an understanding and clarity. One thing that Justice Thomas said, and really, I know a lot of people feel as though Justice Thomas has been a traitor to the Native Black Americans, the foundational Black Americans, descendants of freedmen. A lot of people feel like Justice Thomas has been a traitor. However, I kind of disagree based on his ruling, because he's in his ruling on that case that we brought up about the civil rights with the Asian students. He basically said that black was a broad term. He basically gave the template, and a lot of people may not realize it. He gave the template and the legality of what civil rights was created for a specific group of people, and its originality. This is why you see, like you said, and this is why I want to bring this up. The Trump administration, because of what's going on with immigration, they're talking about birthright citizenship. The Trump administration has clearly said, you've heard him say that his own mouth, Black people, you built this country. He said that. You get other people that want to say immigrants built this country. And he said that birthright citizenship, and when you look at birthright citizenship, not just in America, but in the global scheme, our birthright citizenship in this country is very broad. You can't go to certain countries and say, and have a child in that country and say that that country is automatically a citizen of that country. It don't work like that. It works like that here because what happened is that law, birthright citizenship law, was broad. So when we know that SCOTUS is going to be ruling on it, it needs to be specific, because when it was designed specifically for the descendants of freedmen, for the freedmen. It says that in language, actually. So, Roland, I'm going to ask you this question. Before we get to your 7 R's, why is this aspect? Because we could talk about, like you said, we could talk about delineation all we want. Mm-hmm. We could really start explaining to people in the diaspora why the delineation is important for not only us, it's important for them too. They should have some cultural, economical, legal pride. If they say, okay, I'm a Haitian American, you should be proud to say that you're a Haitian American and walk around with your head high and be proud of your lineage. Same for Jamaicans, same for Trinidadian. Black Americans are saying that now. So when we get to that level, now that baton needs to be passed, and we talk about 7 R's. Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah. We have 7 R's in regards to we enforce restorative justice for our people. Each one of these R's are a different method in which we want to get justice for Negro people. But I do want to touch back on that ruling and give the baton to Sister Kim in regards to my man Clarence Thomas, because my perspective of it, he's still a traitor to me, and he's not
Mm-hmm.
for us. And people are, from my perspective, from what me and Sister Kim have talked about, in regards to Clarence Thomas, is that he's not really, that decision and that the way he wrote it was still not in the best interest for our people. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that Sister Kim could eloquently discuss it in the more detail than I can on that talking point right there. Sister Kim, are you there to talk about that Clarence Thomas thing?
Yeah, no, I am aware of it. I haven't studied it out in details, but I know that he did use uh the Dred Scott ruling, and he did classify freemen for one particular writing in the descendant opinion, was that freeman is not a status, it's not a class at all. It was a status change where the slaves went into a bureau, and they were receiving services from this bureau, and then they were granted services. So freeman was a bureau for the slaves, which were Negroes, that had went into a lot of the military. And you had the Buffalo Soldiers, you had the Negro Cavalry, you had the color soldiers, and they were granted an opportunity to go from being slaves, servitude, to being free. And so those Negroes were classified as free slaves, and they needed work, and they needed services and houses. And so Freeman Bureau was established for that. And they often also um, leased those Negroes back that was free back into slavery. So ultimately, the freemen individuals are Negroes who were classified as free. And Freeman is not a bloodline. It is not, Clarence said, it's not a bloodline. It is not an ethnicity. It's a status change, that they had a pass, like getting on a bus and you're getting a transfer. So they had the right to go both up and down in the world, where other slaves did not have that bus pass. They didn't have that bus pass. They didn't have that transfer. They didn't have anything. But being a free man, that status class, they had a bus pass. And so I think Freeman has to be a little bit cautionary from my investigation and going back over the Dred Scott and dealing with the legal terminologies of the laws that connected freemen to Negroes to being free, and a status change. There may be some, just a little bit of conflict of interest with the Negroes' ethnicity and the status change of freemen turning people into like a bloodline. I've never seen that ever in my life, but I can understand people saying, well, my family had a past, and then they passed that past to me, which I don't know if you guys remember back in the days, you get on a bus and you put your 50 cent in there, and then they gave you a transfer, and you can go anywhere you want to go. And that was pretty much how you can even get that transfer to your friend. You can get that transfer to your
I'm
buddy.
I'm laughing. I'm laughing, Sister Kim, because one of my friends, um, she always says to people, "You better have your freedom papers."
Yeah, you gotta have your freedom papers. So that was what the freemen offered, those papers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the NBNU will help the Negroes and those that, because we still have millions and millions of Negroes. We're just, if they're 60s and older like myself, we just been laying low, been letting a lot of you young people do what it is that you do. But a lot of us Negroes are coming out of the woodwork to aid and support you all in
Well,
equal.
elders of your council, youth
Huh?
for war, right?
Yeah. So we're trying to make sure that what we invested in. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. We say that. Go ahead, Sister Kim. You go ahead.
Oh, okay. So no, we're just trying to make sure that we provide you all the protection that you need to reconstruct and pick up the mantle to make sure that the sovereignty that we're looking for to separate ourselves from, this government, according to the emancipation, which was the main reason why, we were free, but we did not form our own nation with that freedom. We did not pick up and form our own government. We did not continue to construct our own constitutions. We didn't do any of that. We didn't start, trying to make our own currency. We didn't start trying to protect any of our laws. We didn't come up with our mission statement for our own schools. We didn't formulate any kind of progress to make sure that we survived and stayed self-sufficient after the emancipation. And that is what the NBNU is bringing to the table right now. We're offering an opportunity for us to be a sovereign nation, a nation within a nation. We're offering the opportunity for us to have our own currency and land, and getting the ongoing wealth that is entitled to us. We're putting that back into our pockets, is to put that back into the foundation Black American Descendants, and making sure that the historical justice and harm that you were entitled to, that we ensure that both public and private, and making sure that we protect us going forward, and our youth and our, like our children and stuff going forward. So I'll land with that.
Yeah, and I
Well,
want to get to those seven R's.
you were explaining the 7 R's before I brought up Clarence Thomas, and you had to
Yeah,
eloquently explain your view of him and some
yeah,
of the things that you feel as though that he's been destructive for. But explain the 7 R's, and this is important because a lot of times in these disagreements that a lot of people see online is that understanding that this is a lineage. So a lot of people feel like, no, y'all a group, y'all got a leader, and they'll conflate saying, "Oh, we're foundational Black Americans, y'all a group, y'all doing this, y'all doing this." No, it's a lineage. It's people that have a lineage. They may disagree on religion. They may disagree on food. They may disagree on any other aspect besides that they are descendants of a group of people, an ethnicity, a lineage of people. And that always needs to be clarified. But when you talk about trying to get a justice claim and bringing your 7 R's that you've put together, Roland, as far as delineation and having and being able to take this government and those who are responsible for the atrocities, you've devised 7 R's.
yeah,
Explain that if you don't mind.
yeah. Me and Sister Kim, we sat back, burnt the midnight oil, and we came up with the seven R's. The seven R's is restitution, retribution, restorative, redemption, resolution, responsibility, and remembering. Each one of these R's serves a purpose to restore the Negro back to its rightful position in society and in the global community. That was the objective of why we have these seven R's. Each one of these seven R's represent one of our founding fathers. We call it the founding fathers, but we call them one of the fathers of the lineage. So we have Dr. Neely Fuller that's in it, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Brother Malcolm X. And the list goes on and on and on of the various different faces to go along with one of those, John Henry Clark, for remembering. Just to kind of give you guys a little feel about what the seven R's are about and why they're important in regards to getting our repair. Each one of those R's represent one of our forefathers that has passed away, who has fought for our people and our bloodline and our lineage. We have to have responsibility. We have to have remembering our ancestors. We have to have a resolution for some of the stuff that's going on and continually going on with our people. We have to redeem ourselves, redemption. We need restorative justice. Like, so these are
So
the
what?
things that we talk about on the app daily. Now we're going to actually put it into practice and put it into the mission statement so that people can practice it. That's a part of civics work.
So what does restorative justice look like besides online rhetoric?
Oh,
Great,
that's a good
great
one.
question. So one of the things besides online rhetoric is actually creating these type of templates, creating the necessary programs to build a restorative, restoring our families, restoring our lineage, going out and being responsible with our history, protecting our history, restoring that. These are the things about putting this into practice, applying it with our brothers and sisters. And that's very, very, very important. Remembering these holocausts and these horrific things that happened to us. Those are the things that are very, very important. Making sure that this is not no this flag right here. This is not no Salon flag. This is not no free. This is the Negro Nation flag, right? This is coming from the rallying point from Melvin Charles himself. So we need to remember these things so that people won't change the narrative on our history and shame our ancestors. We always talk about that we like our ancestors and this, that, and the third. Well, how about we lift up the words of what they're saying and protecting and preserving it? That's a part of the responsibility. See these R's? That's a part of the responsibility that we're doing
Sister
as a people. And that's why it's
You want,
very, very important, these 7 R's.
Sister Kim, you want to chime in on what is restorative justice besides online rhetoric?
Yeah, let me now it there is true. It is a lot of people who are upset because they're trying to take a deep dive in what I would call legally is called lineage reconstruction. And Brother Roland has a pamphlet about a lot of reconstruction is a lot of our landmarks and things that we have contributed to this world that based on our lineage we're now redeeming or we're asking, basically demanding that those things be restored to us. And so that's we're using those 7 R's as methods in order to clarify our claim. And I don't know, did you want me to begin to actually, when we talk about restorative claims, justice, lineage, reconstruction, are we ready to actually move, to a progressive state? Like you said, it's just not online rhetoric. The bigger question is, are we as a people willing to hear what's right and then comply to something that you may not, it's like you may not be the ear of the body, but you still need the ear. You have body parts and they all work together. So you
Hmm.
not understand how the brain work, but still the brain needs to do what the brain needs to do. So some of the online rhetorics are just many parts of who we are as a lineage, and we're just trying to take a deep dive to say this belongs to us and it doesn't belong to anyone else. And then the people, of course, who's getting clear that you can't come into somebody else's house illegally and then take something that don't belong there, getting the message that you can't keep doing something that you were doing and you're getting a whooping for it. So you get a lot of people getting upset, a lot of tantrums being thrown. You just have different response from the message that you once was able to enjoy the barbecues, the cookouts, the domino playing, the spades, the pools, shooting the breeze, we slapping fives, you had access to that. But now it's time where you went too far. You went into the kitchen, you start taking food. Every time we turn around, money is missing. You're doing too much in the house. You're still a guest, but you're doing too much. So now you got a lot of, us, we seen you steal. Stuff is coming up missing, we look around some, we had a couple quarters somewhere and all of a sudden the change drawer the money start diminishing.
Hmm.
The money is coming up missing. So we start looking around. We like, who's stealing the money? So whether you like it or not, most of the individuals who are knockoff black people are stealing and siphoning and expunging off of the color simulation of dishonesty, because you know you were probably born as a Kenyan, a Haitian person, a Trinidadian person, but you're not even wearing those stripes. You're not even wearing that whoever you were born as, you're not wearing that, because your malice intent is actually to defraud the people who actually labored, put the work in, sacrificed, paid the cost to be the boss. And now you came in on the back door
Me
and
no black. Me no black.
playing black, stealing something that don't belong to you. And now these very peoples are shutting the windows, shutting the doors, boarding up stuff. And so basically now you're perturbed, you upset, and you're now talking about how they're divisive. At the same time, we are coming up missing by the buttload since you've been here.
And
And
Let me let me
can I
ask you a
chime in?
question, Roland. I
go
have one
ahead.
question I want to ask you, Roland.
Mm-hmm.
And Sister Kim, I don't know you as well as I know Roland. I'm gonna ask Roland this because this, um, I might put a smile on his face when I ask him this question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that white America, Roland, is getting their defining moment to understand, like, hold up, the whole time it hasn't been the black Americans that have been doing this stuff. When you see like the fraud in Minnesota, because we're Roland, me and you grew up in urban areas, and then when you start traveling, you start going to different areas throughout the country, and you'll come across people from white America, and they will have their own prejudices, not the racism, the prejudices of a group of people. And do you think that they're getting their wake up moment too? Like, hold up, these people been stealing resources that we thought or we interpreted was for a group of people that in all actuality, because, and I bring this up, Roland, because for those that don't know, the Minnesota fraud, the ringleader to the Minnesota fraud is a white woman.
Mm-hmm.
She's been found guilty of it.
Mm-hmm.
The Somalians are the face of it because they're choosing to be the face of it. They've been the beneficiaries of the fraud, but they not only did they say, I didn't know or I didn't have anything to do with it, they've literally doubled down and allowed themselves to say, whatever, we did it. And ain't nothing y'all gonna do about it. And we didn't. They, sometimes, and Roland, this is speaking to your background with your masters, right? Usually, when you hear something about fraud, and fraud is so broad because the beneficiary of a fraud may not even know. They might have got looped in
Mhm.
by the fraudsters. And when the Minnesota stuff came out, and I don't want to take away from the conversation, you guys, but it's just crazy what's going on right now. I didn't understand why the Somalian community doubled down. I thought it was crazy because here it is, the woman did it. She was the ringleader. I know people that used to be into crime, and the first thing they would do would shut up. Not only did this Somali community not shut up, they got belligerent towards the federal administration about all these millions and millions of dollars that they said was part of the fraud. Explain your view
Yeah,
of that whole situation and how that whole situation ties in with them cosplaying.
yeah, we're gonna have to take it piece by piece, right? We got to talk about them. They like model minorities, right? And one of the cases that I could bring up is the Peter Liang case, right, where he unalived and killed a Kai Gurley in New York. You can Google it; it's in my book. I talk about it briefly, but one of the things that these AAPI community did was protest. They organized off of WeChat. They gathered their numbers up. See, we can't even have a social media apparatus like that, like without them interfering with it. But they were able to get politicians to come over to WeChat. They were getting money from Malaysia, and God knows where, to push that agenda to say that, hey, it's okay to get an Asian cop off that did something wrong. We're going to get him off so we can say it's okay to do criminality and unalive and kill black men. Even though the guy's African, it was what it was representing, the reason why they were pushing hard. And that's why they were pushing so hard. And it's kind of like the same thing. And also I could point to what's that other situation with the young Tasha Harlan? Kind of the same thing too, where these immigrant groups, no matter what their skin color may be, or wherever they come from on this globe, they feel like they have a model minority status where they do no crime, they do no wrong, even though they're engaged in criminality. Heck, some of these people come over here illegally, and they still haven't gotten punished yet. We got to keep it real. So, but yet still, they will and they were letting people off with insurance. They didn't have insurance on their vehicles. They were letting them off. They were hitting and drunk driving, all types of things. Them having fake licenses, unaliving and murdering people with these tankers. So they feel like they're above the law, and the law is only meant for Negro Black American folks.
When it comes to punitive damages.
Yeah, when it comes to punitive damages, when it comes to jail time. This is why we have the exoneration rate so high, because they're not going to jail, but people like us, people from our lineage, we're the ones who are going to jail for them.
So we discussed this prior, right? And this is where a lot of times most people don't see it. And this is why, I know a lot of people got upset with me, myself, and Chef C when we said that the leader is the code, but they didn't understand what we were saying. When you look at what our ancestor did, Neely Fuller, and why his book was so impactful, and it's going to continue to be impactful for generation to generation, understanding these systems and why a person may not understand WS and may not understand that WS is not a person, and understanding that these systems are put in place and have been put in place, and why you're fighting against a system that is racist.
It's not
when you bring up those cases, and then you talk about how some of the minorities want to be considered as a model minority, and it's always geared towards having a face to the crime. Because even with the Somalian community, with the fraud, a person may look at them and be like, they may not be understanding in their mind, no, this is the Somalian community. They might be like, oh, they're black, or they might be like, oh, no, the Muslim community. That when you put a face, because they do this a lot, the perk walk in New York is all designed, you guys. This is very important that you understand. When you're watching the news in the New York metropolitan area, the reason why the perk walk, because they're putting a face to the allegation. And if you ever notice the perp walk, they come behind, they bring the perp through the back door. The media got the back door. They really in the back door with the cameras of the police station. That's the back door. You know how New York precincts are. The front, that's not the front door they go through. They go through the back door. But the media is there. Anyway, what I'm saying is they put a face to crime. Why is this so important, Roland? Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to tap on that too as well, and thank you for recentering that as well. One of the things is that there's been a myth that's been pushed online. Well, Negroes make up, Black American folks make up 13% of the population, but do over like a sounding amount, over 50% of the crime nationally. And they like to put us as the face of the criminality. So now when people are engaging in us, they are already stigmatized. They already have a inherent bias, or it's past the skin color. It's past that. It's institutionalized, and it gets reinforced through the media, which makes it so nefarious when we're getting charged for crimes that we haven't even committed as a group of people. Like let's break down white collar criminality. As a group of people, that's normally a middle-aged white man's crime. That's not our lane. So when you have these other melanated immigrant groups that are engaging in that criminality, they put that underneath the Black crime statistic, and now they're over policing us. Now it gives the justification for them to come into our neighborhood, to over police us, to investigate us and scrutinize us more, due to the fact of the immigration and the immigrants that are engaging in certain type of criminality, and introducing new drugs. Shout out to the Shower Posse. Shout out to the Zopounds. I could go through a list. The Mexican cartels. Like, these are the people who are engaged in these type of criminalities, sex trafficking, and sometimes those statistics ended up where we're holding the bag. We're the ones holding the bag.
It's important that what Roland's saying, that you guys in the chat and you guys that may watch the rebroadcast of this, that we all understand what goes on when it comes to putting a face to the crime. It is very, very important that we understand. One of the issues in New Jersey, I don't know, about 20 years ago, you guys, I'm originally from New Jersey, about 25 years ago, racial profiling became real
Driving
popular.
while black.
I actually know people who got incarcerated because of the racial profiling cases, right? But one of the things that they don't tell you about racial profiling is the reason why it was such a big thing was they were profiling based off of race, and that made it a quote unquote illegal issue. However, they still profile. In New Jersey, they have what they call, I don't know how up to date it is, they have what they call the drug dealer profile. This is when people used to be out in the street and sell drugs on the corner. The drug dealer profile, literally in the state of New Jersey, was Timberlands, blue jeans, white t-shirts, and dreadlocks. This is when everybody had the dreadlocks. You would think I'm crazy, but I know this from various law enforcement people that I know, that they literally had a state profile of just what the street drug dealer may look like. It's not based on race, so they're allowed to get away with it. However, when you're putting a face on crime, think about it. Who has dreadlocks? You don't see white people with dreadlocks.
Yeah.
You see what we could consider black. So it wasn't based on race, the profile, but it was broad enough and specific enough where you would think it was a group of people. And this is why what Roland is explaining and what I brought up, and I'm going to continue bringing up, is that when they put a face on a crime, that how it is so detrimental and so harmful to our lineage.
Can I go one step further about them putting even when it comes to essay assaults, stuff of that nature? Like, they don't have a profile of the white tea guy that's running around. What is that white tea person really like? What does he really wear? They don't get, but they'll do that to the allegedly black drug dealer. I just want to throw, and they're the ones who's really high when it comes to essay of children, essay across the board. They're the leaders of that. But you don't see them breaking down a full scope profile, saying what type of model make truck that they might drive, what type of boots and laces they might wear. See, I can really go with, like, and this is the reason why I was really thinking about creating a profile book for these WSs. So we can really understand, like, who they are, what are they doing, what are they wearing, why they have these colored shoestrings up in their boots like that, why do they wear their hat like that, so we know how to identify them when they come in our neighborhoods.
And there is Sister Kim, I know you had something to say, but there is, like Roland is bringing up, there is some identifiable markers that they use on a certain group of people. We know when we put the OK sign up, and I'm not going to put the sign up during the show. As a Black American, we could just say that's the OK sign. When you're dealing with WS, they put the OK sign up. It says for white power. So understanding these profiles, understanding these sign languages and how people wear their clothes, this is very, very important. We're putting a face to a crime is not just that person's face. It puts a whole lineage, a whole group of people to that crime as well. I know some of us be like, what are you talking about? Just look at it. When you go in the store, and I love people, but when you go in the store, think about when you see a group of young black people, young black brothers at the store, in front of the store. We will feel comfortable with them. This is our people. Hey, what's up? You do the head nod, you do it all. But it's a profile that has been put into our conscious of what they could and could not be doing that will make us have apprehension, rightfully or wrongfully. So it's very important for us to understand it. Sister Kim, you had something you wanted to say, right?
Yeah, no, I think what Brother Roland was saying was in yourself, as far as just having people who have black skin similarity and then attaching them to a criminal perp, kind of putting them before the people, that's kind of a us kind of scam, where the Trump administration has just brought out what they call a scam act that is associated to so-called black people behaving, and they're not really black, but they're behaving to extort funds from grants or any kind of money from the government. And they're doing it under the auspice of looking black on the outside, but there is a criminal, organization kind of like backing them up. And so that is being that has caused a problem with the Trump administration, and they have did something about it. And I just wanted, it's called the Scam Act. Y'all can look it up, but it's called the Scam Act, and it's actually beginning because it came from what happened in Minnesota. So they are associating individuals who have came over here, got Pell Grants, got student loans, got money, got business loans. Then went to I forgot the other one that they create. Like nursing, some kind of university.
Yeah, the nursing fraud in Florida
Yeah,
with
yeah,
the Haitians.
yeah, yeah. So it done accumulated to what they call the Scam Act, and now that is one of the things that I don't know if a lot of foreigners know about it, or any black person know about, but that's the one who's now getting people that's coming over this country locked up for a long period of time, because you're trying to play like you're black, and most black people are very sincere, honest, and law abiding, in spite of what white America put on these TVs and try to act like we some criminals and this, that, and the other. And it's just not true. But they
Because, and
go
Sister
ahead.
Kim, that was the beginning of our conversation before we even went live, was that we know inherently about delineation, because we would always say, the elders like yourself would always tell us when we go out there, represent, don't make us look bad. You know what I mean? You would always hear that. You would always hear the elders saying, "Yo, when you out there, know how to conduct yourself, know how you were raised." So we always had a level of decorum, of knowing how to move,
Hmm.
and not making, even when we make mistakes,
Hmm.
not trying to make everybody look bad or
Hmm.
everybody look good, or if you're gonna do it, you're gonna represent us right. And that, some people could say that's a burden that's
Hmm.
on the Black American. It's like the gift and the curse, because we wear our race and our lineage on our back. But when you think about everything that we've been through in this country and our ancestors have been through in this country, it's a prideful thing that we understand that, when I see a person like rolling out in the street and I don't know him, that we acknowledge each other with the head nod, that we like, peace, bro, because I know his struggle. He knows my struggle.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
know
we
how
tap
hard it
into
is
each
for
other.
him. Yeah, we know how hard it is to navigate. So, you guys, great conversation, man. And we're going to wrap it up, man. And I really, really, um, I look forward to this. And Kim, I'm gonna blame Roland, because I told him about a month ago or
Hmm.
2 months ago, like we got to do this, and
Hmm.
Yeah,
we was tied up. And then the winter, like, listen, you guys in the chat.
it's
For
crazy
me,
winter.
this has been a very, very trying winter. I know a bunch of you guys mentioned Dr. Short. Dr. Short is actually doing very well. he will get back to what he's been doing very shortly with his Angry Man book club, with his book club going on, Pat Talk. We just all been busy, and it's been a very interesting winter. Definitely, if you live in the Northeast. But not to take away from what we're discussing here. Any final words, thoughts, comments, you
Yeah,
guys?
we're gonna have to definitely run a part two because we can go a little bit more into this. Because this kind of set the foundation and the framework and why we need to have the bills, the protection bill, as well as the other things of that nature. And I definitely would like to reschedule a part two in regards to that so we can go even more in detail, playing some of the videos and break down some of the things that has been going on with some of these immigrant groups that have been very abusive to our elderly people, have been abusing our children and harming our children, you know, and other things of that nature, weaponizing their positions of authority, such as in the classroom, targeting Negro, Black American, and FBA students in these institutions and colleges where we need them to be successful so they can actually do the work on behalf of their lineage and our people. They're actually preventing and stopping Black doctors, Black lawyers, Black professionals in order to put them into those places, which is almost as another form of wealth extraction. So when these immigrant groups keep saying, hey, we don't need to pay no reparations, no, you're engaging in the harms, in the continual harms of Negro Black American people. Therefore, yes, you're going to have to pay them reparations as well.
You're a co-conspirator.
Mhm.
Sister Kim.
Yes, I would like to once again thank you for just giving me a chance to even bring up the NBNU and the movement and the purpose of it. But I want to take this last little minute to just put our mission out there, that our point in what we're trying to do currently is just stop the erasure. We are definitely issuing notice of intent to sue in a lot of different areas, and for conflicting or even conflating who we are as Negroes, who we are as, Black Americans. We are identifying scams and those who try to mimic our experiences in order to extort us or use our history for monetary gain. We're addressing all that, or those who seek to remove us from any kind of federal reparation and restorative justice that we're actually writing and working on. So if anyone want to contact us and even, see how they can become a member, join our organization, you can go ahead and contact us at 302-551-9722. That's 302-551-972. And that leads up to Roland Dunham, and that's where you can volunteer, you can donate, you can become a member in order to help us preserve our ethnicity and our history, and consider what I'm seeing as a priority. Thank you very much for having me on the show, and I very much appreciate you, Brother Q, and I look forward to talking to you in the near future.
Hey,
I'm sorry.
Roland,
I'm sorry. Static. What you say?
you guys are giving me like an echo noise, you guys.
Oh, it sounded like
Yeah,
electric.
I just want to say one thing. To be part of an organization.
Hey, Roland, wait a second. You're giving me like an echo noise. Go out and come back in real quick. Hey, Kim.
Huh?
Oh, yeah,
I'm
I
still
was getting
here.
some interference. Yeah, it was like an echo noise. Repeat your contact information again.
Oh yeah, most definitely. So we can be contacted by phone number is 302-551-9722. That's 302-551-9722. And that's the Negro Black Knight Heritage Club. He's also on the email. We also have a website, and you can become a member, you can donate, and we will definitely fill you in and give you more information on what it takes to become a member of the NBNU and the Negro Black Knight Heritage Club.
Yeah, and I just want to throw out there for the listeners to be a part of our organizations for free. But the one thing is about about being a knight and a knight or a knightess in our organization is that you're going to have to pay for your own supplies. That's a part of to know that you're really serious to pick up the mantle and pick up the sword and clash and clang with us as knights and knightess. So we definitely would love to see more people be more engaged with us in regards to that. Make sure you get the book Delineationology. I do have Delineationology Part 2 in the making. It should be out in a year or so from now, but I am working on the sequel to Delineationology 2.0. And Sister Kim will be a guest writer as well. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
With that, you guys in the chat, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Remember, the best way to support the channel is to like, share, subscribe. I appreciate Roland and Sister Kim coming on. And really, you guys, this is more of having a conversation. And when we leave these conversations, being able to start to look into certain things that have happened in our past and understanding what we would say is our why. Why did we get to this moment? How did we get to this point? And when we talk about cosplaying, definitely from the immigration class, we need to understand what happened in the 60s. In the 60s, why a group of Black Americans were fighting for civil rights, or what we would say to be treated equally, some equity that they earned in this country. There was an act. It's called the Hart-Celler Act, 1965, where the American government, it was a big immigration act. And in this immigration act that was created, it undermined the civil rights movement. It undermined the civil rights movement. It undermined the civil rights movement, whether people realize it or not. And if you look into it and then you start to understand what happened in the influx of what would all be the immigration class of today, we'll understand why we're in this situation where the Black Americans have been cosplayed not just from a cultural standpoint, economical standpoint, and a social status standpoint in this land. With that, you guys, appreciate everybody for tuning in. Appreciate the conversation. We will have a part 2, probably within the next couple of weeks, so we can really talk about getting legislative protections with reparative justice, with restorative justice. Protections need to be put in place because we know that this land has no problem with physically harming this group of people. With that, take care. Have a great night.